Hey guys, now just the other day I was asked the question of how I create my videos. Specifically, how do I animate them or the entire creation process from A to Z. Now given I'm not a very professional animator like the others out there, I figure I will make this video to answer some of the questions that people often ask me. Stuff like, what software do you use to animate? What kind of tech do you use for your drawings and illustrations? Why do your characters look so funny? So for anyone who wants to start their own passion project in animation or a YouTube channel, or just wants to know how I do all of mine, here goes. For me, it all starts from the idea. Of course, this involves digging deep into my brain, and assessing that library or memory or sanctuary. I often refer to this as my gaming zen area of my brain for the topic or idea that I want to talk about. Judging from experience, literal experience, I find something that is equally funny yet good enough to teach people out there. So then I began the process we all know as scripting. I do my scripting on Word. It could be Microsoft Word or it could be Google Docs. Personally, I use Google Docs more recently because it's always on and it's easier to arrange them. I will write down all my thoughts and ideas in a free-flow manner. I mean, you don't need to structure them precisely in the first attempt. It doesn't work that way. I usually give it a day or two to prepare the script and revisit it just to make sure that is what I really want to talk about. You know, the funniest thing is more often than not, the second day I'd be reading through my script again and slashing out a whole lot of parts because I may have a change in mind or because the jokes just felt kind of cringy. You know, after just one day, I know. Anyway, after I'm satisfied, I then go on to turn this idea into an audio version. So I have this Fifine T669 USB condenser mic and I use Audacity to record my script. Go check it out, it's free. There are like many softwares out there for audio that different people use. Some use Premiere, some use OBS Studio, and some that can afford it use Reaper. And the list goes on and on. I guess I use Audacity because I just need one software to record my audio and doesn't cost me an arm or a leg. So then I record my script in a typical linear manner from start until the end just to get a feel of how it sounds. It's not uncommon for me to record this a couple of times just to sync with how I imagine it to be like. And then I re-record those parts which I feel didn't turn out quite right. Like for example, if some parts of my audio or script I want to be funny but it doesn't turn out the way that I meant it to be, or it sounds meh or cringy, I would re-record it again until I'm satisfied with the result, that is. So it's also worth mentioning that even sometimes after animating most of the video, I would revisit this audio again and record some parts of the video just to make the whole thing better. You know, the best practice is to record them in different ways so you can pick the best one later. I then go on to the storyboarding. You know, I used to do them on paper with my trusted pencils, but then you know what? I storyboard on all those A4 papers, sometimes on post-it notes, and it all ends up very messy, unorganized, and it also kinds of make me feel guilty for wasting so much paper. So I started storyboarding and sketching them on my iPad. You know, storyboarding begins with a very rough sketch of the ideas and frames based on the script. You don't want to go into detail at this point because it's really about setting the stage and creating that big picture. Just roughly sketch it out, don't waste so much time on creating them perfectly. This really helped me in speeding up my thought process on paper. After that's done and I have the basic drawings of my story, I then set out to draw the main frames of my video. Like I said at the beginning of this video, people often ask me what tech do I use for my drawing and illustrations. The answer to that is a mixture of Adobe software and my iPad plus Apple Pencil for drawing. Typically, I would draw out the characters and scenes that I need because of the fact that I grew up drawing comics a lot, so you know how comics begin with sketching and then inking and then scanning and so on. I like to ink out my charts in Procreate and then import them to Adobe Illustrator where I complete the illustrations that I need. Then comes the heavy lifting part, the animation process. Now if you're looking to be a professional animator that works for the big ones like Disney or DreamWorks or Nickelodeon, you must absolutely learn animation software. You probably need to know the ins and outs of how all those animation software like Adobe Animate or Maya or Toon Boom, etc. For me, however, animation is about speed and I don't want to waste too much time on stuff like choosing colors or complicated backgrounds. So what I do is I create my frames in Illustrator and color them there. Then finally I import them and do all the animating in Adobe Animate. I like to use Adobe Animate because I can stream my audio while I'm creating the animations and it's smoother compared to when I use After Effects for it. And in Animate, what I like to do is I create a lot of symbols or assets in the library so I can reuse some of them in different parts of the video or in different videos entirely. Again, this is up to the video style you want to portray, and for me, a big part of my videos are narratives, where my characters speak and serve as the narrator. You know, like how lecturers and professors are, or coaches and comedians, they speak to the audiences as themselves. So same goes for me. My characters are usually at the corner of a screen as I shift between the third person and first person narration throughout my videos. So I have all of my characters and poses saved to my library. Now, once most of my major frames are drawn, what I end up doing is a lot of frame by frame animation in between characters and text. Let me show you an animation in action so you can get a better understanding of it. And as you can see, this is my timeline here, and the first thing I got to say is I know it's messy. Not that messy. And some of the animators I know love to keep their timeline organized, their library files neatly labeled, and so on. But I just take things as they are to save time. For example, whenever I create a symbol, I usually just press the OK or the return key really fast instead of naming them properly. I mean, I hope I don't regret that later on. But anyway, I have some animations contained within symbols. This is helpful because I don't have to build the animations over and over again for some assets I want to reuse. So usually, I make these symbols for scenes. In here, you can see different things going on. Like this icon here is a symbol, or this phone here is another symbol, or this TV here is another symbol. These little things here that you can see on the timeline that have this bluish arrow thing are classic twins. A little trick that I like to use for these animations is it starts small, and then it goes big at this point, and then it drops down to its intended size just to create that little pop effect which I like to use in my animations. Another thing about these twins is you get to control the timing of them. Like for example, I want this thing here to move a bit slower, I just have to pull the end of this keyframe. Or if I need it to go faster, I adjust it shorter. There you go. Another thing I like to do, because I use a lot of narration scenes, is I don't usually keep scenes too long without any movement. What I do for my objects, for example, the text in my videos usually have this wiggle effect. Now if you're using Animate like I do, my preferred method is just to create a symbol that has a looping movement between two layers of the same symbol. In After Effects, there's this wiggle feature which is pretty cool too. Serves the same purpose for me, so it's pretty much up to you. Now there's basically a few ways you can animate your videos on YouTube, and it really boils down to the style you bring into the canvas. One being the way some of the popular animators focus on expressions and movement without the lip sync animation. Or like me, which is pretty much reversed, that my characters have minimal movement but the lips matches the voiceover. So here in Animate, there's this feature called the lip sync. What you do is you create 12 instances of the mouth according to the basic Vizimis, and you put all of them into a symbol. For this, I definitely will label it properly because I use it a lot and I don't want it to get lost in the 100 of default names. So then, you go back out to the main timeline and you pull this symbol onto the character's face and position it properly. Then you go to the properties, objects, and hit this lip sync button here. If you haven't set it up, you can do so. But if not, just hit done and you're done. The auto lip sync will then do its job. So yeah, when it's done, it kinda looks okay, you can preview it, but there are some instances where I adjust it manually, frame by frame, when I feel it's a bit off or doesn't make sense. You know, when the lips doesn't match the voiceover that I'm doing, and the auto lip sync sometimes is a bit laggy, I would say. I'm still learning and I don't think I'm really good at this, but I'm enjoying doing this and I hope I get better at it. So anyway, when I'm done with the animation and I'm ready to export it, I just go to the export video in the export menu. I set it to 1920x1080 HD, which will then export it via the media encoder. And after that, I just throw it into my After Effects to round it up with the little add-on stuffs like the background audio and special sound effects, and that's about it. I know it's not much, but I'm still learning as I go along, and it's really enjoyable to get better with each video. So I hope this was informative for you, and if it did help you, I'm glad. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.